How can I understand if I'm spiritual? Once I know, what can I do? You don't need someone from outside to give you a stamp of approval of being spiritual. We're so used to that. These days, almost sadly, our education system, our cultural system has become in such a way that we're looking outward for someone to tell us about ourselves. You want to know if you're intelligent? Well, you just look at your grades, you look at your standardized test scores, look at your IQ test score. I mean, here we can tell you if you're smart, we have numbers. You want to know if you're successful? Well, just look at your bank account. If there's a big number in it, you're successful. If there's a small number in it, you're not successful. You want to know anything about you. We've become so habituated to taking all of the answers from people outside. Really, you think I'm pretty? Really, you think I look okay? Really, you think... It's all about what other people tell us. Now, interestingly, we're wondering, how do I know if I'm spiritual? So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to give you an equation by which you can measure yourself every day. I'm kidding if you don't know me. And then you'll judge yourself and you'll say, well, Sadhviji said, okay, A, B, C, and D equals spiritual. Today I've got A and B going, so I'm at about 40%. If I get C going, then I can be almost 60% spiritual. There is no equation. This is you. Spiritual simply means, I'm dedicated to seeing the world, including myself, as spirit rather than as matter. Doesn't mean I'm blind to matter, doesn't mean I ignore matter. You have to pay attention to it, otherwise you're going to bump into walls and tables and doors and things like that. So we have to pay attention to matter, take it seriously, but not identify as it. So I need to pay attention to the matter of my body, make sure to keep it fed and hydrated and rested and safe, not walk out into moving traffic, on that level. So I don't disregard it. Being spiritual doesn't mean I disregard my body, that I disregard matter. It just means I don't identify as it. So all spirituality means, being spiritual means, is I'm committed to living a life in which I see myself and the world as spirit. So I take care of the matter. I take care of whether it's my physical body, whether it's my car, whether it's my house, whether it's my clothing, whether it's the food I eat. All things are necessary for me to get by, but I don't identify as any of it. The physical body is made up of the food we eat. We know that. But interestingly, if I hand you a plate of food, nobody's going to identify as the plate of food. We're not going to say, oh, I am my thali. Tonight I'm very yellow. There's lots of, yellow dal tonight and potatoes and cauliflower. I'm feeling very yellow tonight. We understand I'm not my thali. It's just the food I'm eating. Interestingly though, ironically, by tomorrow, after I've eaten it, and it's now been digested and has become the cells of my body and my bloodstream, well, now I start to identify as it. It's no longer yellow, so I'm not identifying as dull per se. But if I'm identifying as my physical body, it's really the same thing as identifying as the plate of food in front of me, just doing it a few hours later. And just as ridiculous as it would be to identify as the food or as the water, if you consider yourself your body, that's what it is. That's what makes up our body. So we take care of it, but we don't identify as it. If we were, instead of being spiritual, if you were material, so we'll call those our two options, spiritual and material. So material is we focus on matter. We identify as matter. I am my body, you are your body. Spiritual simply means I focus on, identify as spirit. I'm going to see myself as spirit, soul, consciousness, divinity, energy, whatever word you use. And therefore I'm going to see others as that. And it's not automatic and it's not 100% and it's not perfect. But it's simply an internal commitment. And this is why there's no equation I can give you, because it's all about your intention. You're going to slip. We all slip. You're going to think of yourself as the body. At some point you trip, you fall, you say, my God, you're so clumsy. Well, clearly that's a quality of the body, not a quality of the spirit. You'll lose your temper. Something will happen. Or you'll identify with somebody else as their body, their role. My God, my boss. My God, my teacher. My God, my son, my daughter. It's all the identification is the form, the matter. But then you'll remind yourself, oh wait, I've committed to spirituality. I've committed to focusing on spirit. And you'll shift your focus. So you are the one who gets to determine if you're spiritual. Not me, not some equation. And it has nothing to do with rituals. It has nothing to do with rites. It has nothing to do with any of that. These are things we do to make ourselves more spiritual. I get too focused on matter. I get too focused on form. So, okay. Need to do some more meditation, or let me do some rituals, some pujas, so that I can stay connected to spirit. It's not you do rituals, therefore you're spiritual. It's through the ritual. If I'm doing them with the right intention, if I'm doing them with the purity of heart, by God's grace, I will be blessed to be more spiritual. But you can't judge. You can't say, well, that person does all of these rituals, therefore they're very spiritual. You could say that person is committed to doing rituals. But a lot of times we judge ourselves by the actions. And the dilemma here becomes, and this is the second part of the question as well, how do I know if I'm spiritual, and then what do I do? Well, when I don't know who I am, it's very difficult to know what to do. Only when I know who I am, then I know what to do. And so when I know I'm committed to spirituality, I'm committed. Again, I'm gonna forget, I'm gonna slip. I'm going to lose it for a moment and then bring it back, or lose it for a week and then bring it back. But when I know that that's what I'm committed to, then I automatically know what to do. When we know who we are, what to do comes very, very naturally. And this is the dilemma that so many of us face in our lives, is because we don't know who we are. And because we just take these cues from the outer world about our superficial level of value and worth, we're constantly doing. Achieving, acquiring. But it's not bringing us any closer. Because we're not doing it from a place of really knowing who we are. We're doing it, it's like that story of the lion or the tiger who grows up with the sheep, right? Or the wolf who grows up with the sheep. One of those stories is one type of animal grows up with an entirely different type of animal, and without mirrors or, selfies to take, assumes it is a sheep. Well, it takes cues from those around. It looks, everybody else is a sheep. They baa. Okay, now I baa. This is what we do. Okay, we're sheep. And we do the same thing. We take cues from people around us. Oh, being rich is really important. Okay, I'm going to do that. Oh, being thin and beautiful is really important. Okay, I'm going to do that. Okay, living in a certain area of town is really important. I'll do that. Having this type of job, really important. Okay, I'll do that. But we're not doing from a state of being. We're doing from a state of just reflecting off of all the people around us. But that's not who we are any more than the lion is a sheep, or the wolf is a sheep, or the sheep is a lion. The sheep knows who it is. It's doing sheep things. That's all fine for the sheep. The problem only arises when the lion assumes that that's what it is as well. And this is the dilemma that we all face in life, is there isn't one right what to do. There isn't even one right what to do spiritually. It's much more a matter of how you're doing it and who you are that is doing it. It's like that other famous example of, well, if I say to you, is it right or is it wrong to take a knife and plunge it into someone's chest? Most of you will say wrong, unless I tell you I'm a cardiac surgeon. And the person on my table has just had a heart attack, at which point it's very right. Without me taking a knife and thrusting it into this person's chest, they're going to die. So we can take so much of this and realize it's not about the cookie cutter. It's about the inner self. And this is where, on the path of spirituality, as we get to know the self, we automatically know what to do. And interestingly, what to do becomes much less important than how we do it. Much less important. Because whatever we're doing, if we can see it as service, if we can see the divine in the people we're doing it for or doing it with, if we can fully allow ourselves to be used in it, then it's right. There suddenly becomes nothing that's better or worse or higher or lower. It all becomes just a way to serve. The Scriptures are full of examples of the lowest, most common people with the lowest, most common underpaid jobs being the sages, being the rishis, being the ones to whom people flocked, being the ones who are extolled thousands and thousands of years later by these stories in the scriptures to remind us it's not about becoming king. Ravan was king, but he had to be killed because his demonic nature was ruling not only himself, but the whole kingdom. Whether it was Duryodhan, whether it was Ravan, whatever it is, we look at example after example of situations where those who are in the seat of the highest power, the greatest success, are so frequently the ones who actually have to be conquered. And those who are in a seat of much less success as far as the literal game of life goes are the ones who do the conquering, are the ones who do the vanquishing. They're the heroes of the story. So it's very, very important never to gauge when we're on the path of spirituality, never to say, now I've become king, I must be very spiritual, very successful. Look, I've become... Well, no, this was the beginning of the problems for Ravan, the ego, the arrogance. It's the beginning of the problems for Duryodhan. So we don't measure what to do in the same way when we are on a path of spirituality as we do when we're on the path of, he who dies with the most toys wins. It's a different agenda in life. So for the asker of the question, I would say just commit yourself to seeing yourself and the world as spirit, as divine, as consciousness. Connect with that. Because of course there's no place that my spirit ends and your spirit begins any more than there's a place that my soul ends and yours begins. The same spirit flows through all of us. The same consciousness flows through all of us. The same divinity flows through all of us. And so when you're connected to it inside, you connect to it in those around you. Focus on that. You'll know what to do. And it's not going to necessarily come as some massive pronouncement that you're going to, have over a morning cup of chai or something and say, it's come. It's very frequently just in every minute and every moment. In this moment, what to do is to serve this person a cup of chai. In this moment, what to do is give this person a hug, give this person a smile. Build these people a school. Teach these people yoga or meditation or give them a talk, whatever it may be. Earn some money so I can do this or can do that. Whatever it may be. It very rarely comes as some massive pronouncement. It comes as every minute and every moment. And when you know what to do in this moment, well, that's going to open the door to the next moment. And when you know what to do in that moment, it's going to open the door to the next moment. And before you know it, you know what you're doing with your life, not 20 years out down the line, but minute by minute, moment by moment. And that's how life unfolds. And with a commitment to spirituality, there isn't that anxiety of, well, what if I never become king? because we're looking to become in charge of, you could say, our inner world, much more so than the outer world. And so anything that takes us closer to that is what we're going for. And that happens minute by minute, moment by moment,